So you can get that. Okay, are we ready?
Yes, sir.
All right, so we're calling the meeting to order. The Jacksonville Housing Authority Board of Commissioners meeting for October 19th. I'm Charles Briggs, Chair. And at this time, we'll open the floor for public comments. Who is directing the public comments? Ms. Sims?
Yes.
Thank you, Ms.
Can
Sims.
you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. I have, I'm receiving them as they come in. I have several public comments. Some of them were sent in from last time. I will try to get through as much as I can, as fast as I can. About 7, 8 of them now. First one is from Sarah Croft. Good afternoon. My name is Sarah Wilson Croft. I'm a resident at Centennial Towers West. I have taken the opportunity to make comments at several of your meetings. Today is no different. I feel compelled as the elected council member from my community to continue to speak on behalf of our interim CEO, Mr. Alexander. We, the residents, know that Mr. Alexander is the person we need to govern over one of the most essential parts of our lives, our homes. We need Mr. Alexander to be permanently placed as our CEO as of today. Let's take the politics out of the equation and give the man the proper title for the job he has been doing for well over a year. At this point, we believe continuing or restarting a search would be a complete waste of money. Those dollars could be used for other things, not squandered on a search that has been done and did not produce any results. I hope that you will hear the hearts and of the residents of the Jacksonville Housing Authority and finally do what we, the residents that you represent, have asked you to do. Make Mr. Alexander our permanent CEO.
Just curious.
Okay. Next one is Laurie Lewis.
Garrett.
Yeah, can you mute that iPhone? Whatever the iPhone is. Pop it up right there.
Something like that.
We're sorry, Linda.
Yes.
Okay.
Please proceed.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, Mayor Kerr, this is from Laurie Lewis. Good morning, my name is Laurie Lewis. I have lived with the within the Jacksonville Housing Authority for 15 years. Currently, I reside at Hogan Creek and was elected on the Resident Council Management as secretary. I am not here to complain. However, I wanted to speak to you about the search for our CEO. First, I did not really know Mr. McKinney's, nor did I have much communication with him. He would sometimes come to 1320 Hogan Creek and talk to people, but I saw him more at church than I did in our community, which is directly across the street from his office. Now, let me say a few things about Mr. Alexander. Mr. Alexander took over as interim CEO at a bad time due to the controversy over Mr. McKinney's actions. But since Mr. Alexander took over as CEO of the Housing Authority in 2018, things have already changed. Mr. Alexander comes to the building and talks with the residents, and he also comes to many of our functions. Mr. Alexander makes the residents really feel as though he cares about them. Another thing I can say for sure about Mr. Alexander is if something needs to be done, he gets it done. Since COVID-19, Mr. Alexander has made sure that our building was equipped with hand sanitizing stations for the residents, a camera that reminds you to wear your mask and takes your temperature. Our buildings are also being sprayed often to help the residents, especially the elders and the disabled, from contracting the virus. Honestly, Mr. Mayor, I truly feel that the search for a new CEO is a waste of time and money. I am sure there are other people for the job, but Mr. Alexander is the right man for this job. He has proven to the residents over and over again that he is a wonderful person and a great CEO. I am speaking not only for myself, but for the residents of Hogan Creek when I ask you to please stop and stop the selection process, and please place Mr. Alexander permanently as CEO of the Housing Authority. Next is Patricia Shepard, Mr. Mayor. She's a resident of Hogan Creek also. Mr. Mayor, it is with pleasure to correspond with you and relay a letter of complete gratitude in the service that you provide the city of Jacksonville. In addition to that, let me tell you about Mr. Dwayne Alexander. My name is Patricia Shepard, and I am the resident president of Hogan Creek Housing Authority, located at 1300 Broad Street. Mr. Alexander is exemplary CEO, and I feel he should operate as CEO permanently. Let me share with you a few of my feelings. The previous administration would rarely come to see what was going on at Hogan Creek, so a relationship between the resident and him had not developed. Mr. Alexander has shown himself to be a leader for the residents. He has attended meetings when invited and lend support. And he gives suggestions on how to improve relationships between residents and managers. He has an open door policy which reigns true still to this day. He's attended resident advisory board, senior participation, and resident relations meetings, where he can hear concerns of the residents and address them. Mr. Alexander is instrumental in replacing and repairing those things that are needed. These are the things he has done before the pandemic. After the pandemic, Mr. Alexander has made the building sanitized monthly, temperature gauges at the entrance when you sign in. Keep the senior community safe and away from those that may be ill. Extra lighting and cameras have been added since he's been in office. Security has improved drastically. Our elevators were broken down within 2 hours. The engineers came to fix the problem. Mr. Alexander cares about the people. He cares about the people at the housing sites, which is why I must ask you, if you have any influence on who becomes the next CEO of the Housing Authority, please consider Mr. Alexander. Congratulations to him on being named National Housing Assistant Board. The next is from Drusilla Smith. Dear Leonard Carey, we are here at Southwind Villas in support of him, Mr. Alexander. He is good and faithful servant. I would like to see him treated fairly. I support Mr. Alexander 100%. I noticed him from back at home in St. Thomas, where I've known him. Mr. Alexander worked in the field, and he is always friendly, talking to the people and getting to know them. He is a man of his word. Treat him with fairness. Mr. Alexander is fit in every way possible. And Mr. Alexander is not too high above people to be fair. He is like a Mother Teresa, but a man to us. Yes, he is. He's a good man. He's hands-on, not too good that he can't shake your hand. His door is always open. I want him to get the job as CEO of the Jacksonville Housing Authority. Thank you for allowing me to express my feelings for Mr. Alexander. The next one is an anonymous one. And I'm going to pick up from where the one I left over before it was sent in again today.
May I pose a question real quick? Are we rereading the same ones we heard at last meeting? Because some of these sound familiar.
They resent them.
Oh,
some of them are. Some of them are different and some of them are, but they were resubmitted.
Okay. I remember him being called a Mother Teresa before. I want to make sure I wasn't. Okay. Thank you.
It's not the second time.
Okay. This one is, thank goodness for virtual public meetings. First of all, I want it to appear Councilman Dennis Liaison has, as he calls himself, has only defended the former CEO publicly in hopes that the investigation allegations wasn't politically motivated. I can only wonder what the councilman
and I've got some hand wipes.
That's Rosalind.
Yeah.
The bottom line is that the taxpayers' dollars have been wasted over and over again, from the paid administrative leave of the fired CEO to thousands of dollars spent for a national CEO search. Was the job ever offered to the interim? It appears to me that many of the other residents, they wouldn't have allowed him to remain interim for almost 2 years. They'd rather use him instead of hiring him, which was clear when they held back paying him for 6 months to the CEO job, even though the last CEO
I'm
was
sorry,
fired.
what'd you say, no?
Records show, according to the same board members that commended Mr. Alexander on his annual evaluation as interim CEO and vice president of the public housing, they are doing everything to not hire him, including going past the board's unanimous approval recommendation. My understanding is that the interim has been working 3 high-level positions for almost 2 years now, and is continuing to be taken for granted by the same long-standing board members and Councilman Dennis Liaison. He cannot hire appropriate staff because of his interim position. We, the residents, are asking our mayor to step in to place Mr. Alexander into a permanent position of CEO of the Jacksonville Housing Authority before the Housing Authority loses the asset that we currently have, Mr. Alexander. Please forgive me, Mayor Curry. I am not mentioning my name due to retaliation. Next one is from Roby Mixon, Centennial Towers president and resident. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you, Mr. Alexander, about Mr. Alexander. We are so grateful to you for sending him to the Jacksonville Housing Authority. I moved in Centennial in 2013. There were so many things I wanted to talk about, bad things, but we were scared to say anything. In 2017, I became resident president. That is when we started to get some things done. But as soon as the new interim CEO was on board, things in Centennial Towers got even better. When we met Mr. Alexander, we knew we had help, and not just for us, but for all the communities. I can remember an incident where a resident had her kitchen cabinets hanging from the hinge for an exceedingly long time. The lights in our parking lot was out for a while. After the resident relations meeting, within 2 days, maintenance was out working on the problem. Mr. Alexander did not sit in his office. He gets out to find out how things are. Not only living conditions, but altogether our well-being. It means a lot to everyone. He attends meetings, he helps feed the community. He has even set up food drives himself for the residents in the housing community. The biggest part for me, he hands residents food himself. This is the CEO we need. Please, please, I am asking you as the mayor of Jacksonville, keep Mr. Alexander as the CEO of the Housing Authority. Do not let him fall through the cracks. We will lose someone who will get the job done for you and for us. No questions asked. And this is the last one, Sarah Kraft. Good afternoon, my name is Sarah Kraft. I'm a resident of Centennial Towers West. I have taken the opportunity to make my comments at several of your meetings. I think I just read this one. Okay, this is one more. I had just read it. Barbara Sanchez. Let me introduce myself. I'm Barbara Sanchez, the resident president at Brentwood Lakes Community. I would like to express my views on Mr. Alexander as CEO of the Jacksonville Housing Authority. I became involved in the resident council after air conditioning unit had gone out for too long in 2018. I documented.
Where's the actual stage? Where is she gonna speak from? Oh, that one up front? Okay.
I documented the many times the unit had gone out and took the issue to the resident relations meeting, where my concerns were heard and taken to Mr. Alexander. The next time the unit went out, I made the necessary call, and the Gray Heating and Cooling Company came out to fix the air condition the same day. I had mentioned this story to the board members and how pleased I am and how quickly Mr. Alexander addressed the matter. He is a man of action, which I thought the board and the community would want in a CEO. In my public comments, I expressed that I thought the board did not like Mr. Alexander for whatever reason. Only 2 of the board members openly recognize the work that he does. Some say nothing while others forge ahead with the worldwide search. I asked the board members to take their personal feelings out of the equation and look at the work he has done in the agency. How awful it must be to sit in a room where people are planning your demise. He encourages resident council members to work together to bring events to all communities. I do not understand why they must look elsewhere for a CEO. And I am going to read a question she asked. I have a question and I hope it will be addressed. If Mr. Alexander has a change of heart and wishes to place his resume back in for consideration as CEO of the Jacksonville Housing Authority, may he do so? Yes or no will suffice. And that's it. I'm losing my voice.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I appreciate that. We appreciate that. And are there any other public comments from the folks in the audience outside of the reading of the emails on the phone? Seeing none, thank you very much. We'll move on to our approval of the minutes for our September 21st meeting. I'm sorry.
Mr. Chair. Yes, I wanted to ask that, since I don't know if Ms. Sims, if she read the letters, all of them, but can our new board members get a copy of those letters, just as we got a copy of them from September the 21st? Okay,
Well, welcome.
thank you.
Yes.
My hope is that those letters are part of the record and are made available through our website as part of the record for this meeting and last week as well. So,
They are.
okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. So we'll move on to the approval of the minutes and September 21st. Any motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion from Mr. McGowan. Second. Any discussion on readiness? Yes, sir.
I have 2 things. First, under the president's report, I'm taking this off. We talked about the policy, that the policies were revised and updated regarding the sexual harassment policy, standard of conduct, and code of ethics. I just want to make sure that it's noted in there that we have not as a board adopted those yet. So they've been modified, but they still have to go to the committee and then come back to the board. And I don't think it's very clear. Then
Every time. Oh, okay.
the other thing is
All right, so good to see you,
Rosalind, can you hear
Is
me?
that Roz?
It's Roz. Can you hear us, Roz?
She's muted.
Yes, I can hear you.
We keep hearing you. You keep you're talking, and we hear you when you talk. And so they've been muting you and unmuting you while you're walking around. You want to unmute her so she can respond?
I hear you fine, but I wasn't talking, but okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay.
Sorry about that. It was distracting me. I couldn't even finish my sentence. And the other thing is, these minutes do not include it has the comments listed in here, but it doesn't have the actual emails themselves.
Yeah, so I think that's a good point. I think that the reference to the emails was the point, and they're available online as attachments. I don't know if that's, Linda, you can help us, maybe you can help us out with that, but I didn't expect them to be in the actual minutes. I did expect them to be available as attachments to the minutes.
Yeah, we'll make sure they're attached online.
Okay, well, I know she just said they are attached online, but they need to be where people can know, it needs to say, reflect in the minutes that they are attachments that are included,
Right, because these 9 comments don't
reflect what they say.
reflect that they're emails.
Yeah.
It makes it sound like they were here. So I just want to make sure that's clear.
Yeah.
If we can do those 2 amendments, that's my only readiness.
Now, I'd like to go back to your president's comments and it says word revised and updated, but it should say word revised and updated and yet to be adopted. Correct. Okay. So we can make those changes and we can approve them with changes. Any other comments? We clear on that?
Yes.
All in favor of the approval of minutes?
Aye.
Aye. There she is. Aye. Any dissenting? Thank you. All right. Next, we have the chairman's comments, and I'm going to try to be very, very brief. So, because we have several items on the agenda, and I like to try to move on with them. But the lion's share of my comments will be spent on welcoming our new 2 commissioners, Ms. Annabelle Fernandez and Ms. Sue Gilbery. Thank you very much for joining us. We're so happy to have you here. I know we talked a little about your personal life before the meeting, just to kind of introduce yourself. But if you like to for the public, please do so. Feel free to do so at this time.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I am Sue Gilbery. I am extremely honored to serve Jacksonville Housing Authority. I hope my experience and expertise could contribute to achieve our mission. Thank you.
This is Annabelle Fernandez. I'm honored and very excited to be here. I hope I can add value to this process and help out and be available to all of you. So if anything's needed, don't hesitate to reach out. And thank you for the opportunity to be a part of your board.
Thank you. Thank you very much and welcome. And I'm so happy you're ready to get to work because that's exactly what we get ready to do. So we have 2 standing committees, cost and admin and asset management. And I'd like to ask each of you to join one of those committees. And Ms. Fernandez, I'd like to ask you to join the asset management committee, since to me that seems your expertise will be best. And Ms. Gilbery, I'd like to ask you to join the cost and admin committee.
Sure.
And Mr. Alexander, if you would, please make sure that the duties of those committees are expressed or given to them so that in meeting dates and so forth. They meet once a month. Typically they meet the week prior to our upcoming board meeting. And that will give us time to have those reports. Before we had a loss, before we had additional board members, we were suspending those 2 standing committees because we weren't able to get a quorum there because it was just 2 taxing programs. Ms. Brock was currently leading the asset management committee. And we did not, with Ms. Verbeck left, we did not have a person for the cost and admin. So what we'll do is we'll get a stand-in to lead that committee for us. So we'll be there alone and move forward that, and I'll let you know who that person is. Additionally, we have 2 special committees. One you've probably heard a lot about. That is the CEO Search Committee. And I'd like to formally ask Ms. Gilbery to serve on that committee.
Sure.
And the other one is the Bylaws and Governance Committee, which Mr. McGowan chairs. They are pretty much towards the end of that process. Both committees are actually. And Ms. Fernandez, I'd like to ask you if you'd like to serve that committee as well. And Mr. McGowan has been laboring through that effort through the Bylaws and Governance. You just heard him talk a little bit about the laws, the policies that have been reviewed and what they haven't been. So whatever policy you need to put on this last bit, we've got extra set of eyes and ears. And Ms. Mixon Phillips is on the line, and she's chairing the CEO search committee. And we're, sort of towards the end of that process as we think. And depends on which direction the CEO search committee goes. That's part of the process. And wherever that process leads us, we go. So Ms. Phillips will be calling the meeting for that since she just returned to town, and you'll hear more about that during the report coming up. So, do you have any questions?
Not at the moment.
Not at the moment, okay. If you do have questions outside of this meeting, you can certainly talk directly to Mr. Alexander.
Thank you.
And of course, during this forum, we're allowed to talk about this. So, please, before we get out of here, before we adjourn, if you have any follow-up questions, please do. Otherwise, it'll have to wait until one of the committee meetings with us. Okay? Thank you. Thank you very much. And that is all I have for my chairman's comments, because I wanted to spend the bulk of the time going down our agenda, because we have some things in there that is probably going to take a few minutes. Next on the agenda, Mr. Alexander is going to walk us through, or at least introduce us back to Mr. Kinney and the Saxon and Gilmore team regarding Hogan Creek.
Yes, we actually have Mr. Kevin Kinney from Saxon and Gilmore, who's our outside attorney. And could you see if he's on that line, Ivan?
Hopefully you guys can hear me, Mr. Alexander. This is Kevin Kinney from Saxon Gilmore. I can hear you all, so hopefully you all hear me okay.
Gotcha. Yes, there you go. Yes, so he would talk about some of the changes been coming about that hasn't been finalized, but some of the moving parts that have been going on with this whole Hogan deal.
Okay, so Mr. Kinney, before you get into the meat of what your changes are, if you would, please, just for the benefit of our new board members, kind of give us an overview of the Hogan Creek deal, what we're doing.
Happy to, Mr. Chairman. Again, my name is Kevin Kinney with Saxon Gilmore. For those who haven't had a chance to speak with me or interact before, we're outside counsel to the Jacksonville Housing Authority. We work alongside the City of Jacksonville's General Counsel Office in handling some of the special real estate, primarily projects, like, for example, what we're talking today is on Hogan Creek. So on Hogan Creek, that project is undergoing what's known as a Rad Conversion. It's an outside funding source that HUD allows. As many of we all know, that federal funds are tough to come by, and so the Rad Conversion Program was created a few years back, and back in 2016, the Jacksonville Housing Authority made the determination that Hogan Creek, among others, was a good candidate to go through this process. They hired through an RFP process, they hired a developer to work alongside with them. For this case, it was Gardner Capital and DuVernay and Brooks, where the project would allow for the tower to be rehabilitated and improved for its residents. And so that started way back in 2016, and then there was a process where they got tax credits from Florida Housing, which happened in 2018, and then earlier in 2020, right before COVID really took effect, Housing Authority was successful in getting the RCC, which is the rental conversion commitment from HUD, allowing the project to go forward as planned. There's been a number of kind of moving parts and changing things. We started with Bank of America as the lender. They were going to do the construction lending, but as COVID was hitting, they felt like their portfolio was too heavily based with Gardner, so they pulled out, and Gardner was able to secure Citigroup as its new construction lender. And so I believe at the end of the last meeting in September 21, Mr. Alexander provided a summary kind of what those terms would look like and what the project was going on. And for the most part, a lot of that holds true today as we sit here a month later. However, we've recently had some discussions with the developer partner where the Housing Authority would take a greater role. For example, the current development agreement with the partner, Gardner, calls for a 70-30 split, where the developer takes 70% of the fee and the housing authority gets 30% of the fee, and the developer is the lead partner in the deal. We're kind of more of a minority partner. We have rights and everything, but they take the lead. Well, because of a number of factors with city, they wanted to see the housing authority take a greater role. So there's current discussions about us getting taking more of a leadership role in the construction, being able to hire an owner's representative at the expense of our developer partner, and then seeing that fee that we would initially have gotten be increased because we'd be taking on more of an management role during the construction process. As Mr. Alexander indicated, those are still discussion points with them, but we anticipate the timeline would be within the next couple of weeks, we would get necessarily to amend that agreement to allow for these changes to occur, and then that information would be provided to the board to sign off on to confirm that the housing authority has the right to
signed in, and I'm listening. Oh.
Sorry, that's okay. So really what we're hopeful here is that in the next couple of weeks, I would encourage the commissioners to go back and review the summary that Mr. Alexander provided at the end of that meeting on September 21st. And I'm sure he can make another, sorry, a little feedback there, another copy available. But it gives you a good idea of how the project currently sits. And then if we come to terms with this new role we would play, then you would see an amendment to this and an update with new resolutions. And that would, we would believe that would be provided at the next meeting, which I think is in the third week in November. But Mr. Alexander will have more updates along the way. And he just asked me to come in here because from the last time you all met, and there's been some additional discussions. So I wanted to make sure that I was here to answer any questions that you all had, and thank everybody for their time. That's really all I have at this point, but I'm happy to answer any questions I can.
Commissioners? Yes, Mr. McGowan.
So we're currently at a 70-30, and where do you see that going? I don't know if I missed that number. Is there a percentage we're looking at shifting to, and then what would be our extra liability if we did that shift?
So, Mr. McCowan, a couple of things. The number hasn't been finalized, but I would see it increasing at a minimum to 60-40 split, and it may be even an equal split. That's part of the discussions going on right now, and it's probably premature to give an exact quote as to what I think it's going to be, but that's what the parties were talking about. In exchange for that, they would obviously get a greater percentage of the developer fee. By that percentage, and they would continue to, the additional liability would be, they would still have a guarantee role as was contemplated. However, there's indemnification and contributions that would come in from our partner to basically ensure that, in fact, if our guarantee were to be called, that they would step in and pay it for us. That's part of the arrangement that's in the master development agreement. As if we're called by the lender to put in a guarantee and step in that role, that they back us up to ensure that there's as minimal as risk as possible.
You'll give us a copy of the report?
Yes.
Okay, great. And regardless of this split, we still would have to hire a project manager essentially to oversee the project?
Yes.
Yeah, that's correct. We would have an owner's rep, and the housing authority, I believe, has already begun to interview some of those candidates as to who to fit that role. And that was we are going to attempt to have that expense picked up by our partner. That's the starting point, and they've been amenable to it. But again, until I get something in front of you that you all can look at, these are just discussions.
Before I ask my question. So it sounds to me like that any extra liability that's being incurred by us, by the housing authority, is going to be covered by our partner. Is that correct?
Yes, I agree with that, Commissioner.
Okay, so what you're basically saying is that these changes does not provide any additional exposure for the housing authority. This is more like lenders sort of restructuring the deal to their liking.
Yes, I agree with that, and I think that's correct. This is, and just for what it's worth, as many of you all hopefully know, on Friday, the 16th, we were successful in closing the Centennial Towers construction loan financing, and so that project closed, and construction should be then commencing on that to improve that facility as well. In that situation, it would be the similar guarantees that the Housing Authority played in that same role in that deal, with the similar developer partner backing up our guarantee in the event our guarantee gets called. And so the only difference is that in Centennial, we're not the lead construction agent, right? Our developer partner is going to fulfill that role.
Okay. What's the chances that we end up taking I mean, if it's 50-50, if it ends up being 50-50, what are the chances it end up being 40-60? You know, like, how far can we go with this? I mean, because there's got to be a reason why that you know, these changes are being asked for. If our end is being covered, we're not really taking, you know, getting any liability for it. What's the possibility that we could be put in a position that it looks like we're in very much the lead position?
It's a really good question, and hard for me to say what the chances of either outcome are. I will say this, that I think it was an unprecedented move from the developer to offer the additional percentage, because time is of the essence in this. Our commitment with HUD expires at the first week of November, the end of October. We're fast approaching. The tax credits that are available for this on a 9% deal with Florida Housing expire at the end of this year, and we're 45 days out or so from the end of the year. So this change was presented to the developer very late in the day, and therefore I believe they recognize the importance of getting the deal done and not wanting to lose the deal because things expire and have to restart, which would only delay the improvements to the tower, which is going to impact the residents. So because of that, I think they're willing to kind of take this, you know, unusual step in essence, because I haven't seen a lot where the developer has given up its fee, because that's what they do.
All right, thank you. Any other additional questions? Well, we'll look forward to hearing more information about the finalization of whatever updates and changes need to be made, and we're standing already. Now remember, we typically don't meet in December, so work fast.
Understood, will do.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Kenny. All right.
Thank you. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Asset management, Mr. Alexander.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, come on up to go to the next page. Okay, so this is the rent collection for September 2020, actually it was last month. What I actually have on this asset management report, it shows you what the July numbers were, August numbers, and the actual September numbers. September is the end of our fiscal year. So if you come down and see that a little bit more, it'll actually show you that for the whole year we billed $1.4 million, we collected $1.3 million. We had an average of 95%. I thought the 95% was pretty good considering the industry standard is normally that you always want to collect a little bit more than 95%. But because of the COVID for the bulk of the year, which consumed about at least 7 or 8, or at least 7 months of it, we still stayed pretty good. Overall, for the whole year, we came out with a 95% rent collection, which I was pretty happy with. The next one, our occupancy, you go up a little bit more. Occupancy for public housing, we have a total of 5,421 on our waiting list. Affordable, which is over at Brent, we have 106. And you go up some more. Yeah, you have 790 on the waiting list for the Waves. That Waves property came out very nice. If I would encourage most of the commissioners, if you have the time to go down and take a look at that property, especially on 5th Street, that whole entire street down there is done with new buildings down there. As you see in the CEO report, currently we have a total of 16 buildings, and 13 of the buildings are completely done. And we have moved folks into 7 of those buildings, but 3 of those buildings, which have 3 units in each building, have a total of 8 units in each building, and 3 of them are fully occupied. But the property is nice. But our overall occupancy for the whole entire year came out to 78%, 98%.
So let me ask you a question back
Yes.
real quick. The people who are in the Waves now currently are
Yes.
the ones who were there previously.
Yes,
All
yes.
of them.
Yeah, well, the HUD rule says that anyone that moves out as part of the program, if you move out, they have the absolute right to move back. And we move 87 families out of there. Only 43 of them wanted to move back because they liked where they was at. They didn't have to move back, but if they wanted to move back, 43 of them, about 43 of them wanted to come back. And those are the ones that we're moving back first before we take anybody off the waiting list. Okay, here is September, which is overall for us. We measure the performance all year long. Our unit turnaround is at 8.9 days, which is extremely good for us. When you look at HUD, says that anything at 10 days or less is a grade of an A. We continue throughout the whole fiscal year, we maintain a grade of an A. You could have this again. If you look at these of our averages, all of these of all our communities, this is Lindsay Terrace, our only site that received less than favorable grade, and that is managed privately by a private management company. But if you see in all the categories, we manage an A or B and only have 1 C on the whole entire report. And, which is notable, we turned 463 units. That's 463 units we turned in a fiscal year. And that, out of that 8.6 days, we turned 463. So these are the individual numbers for each individual site. That BUT, which is BUTT, is a vacant unit turnaround time. We actually measure them at every single site, and you can look at each AMP. It lists where the numbers are at. And if you look at the private management company, it's up there to 26. Everything else is 19 or below. Work orders. When you're managing any property, you always want to manage the key performance indicators. And when you're managing the key performance indicators, that determines the success of the property that's being, or that asset that's being managed. We had a total of 2,131, could you bring that up, Ms. Evan? 2,131 work orders that was done for the month, and out of the 2,131, we completed them in 1.4 days, which is way below what HUD requires and way below the industry standard. The industry standard is normally between 3 to 5 days or 1 to 3 days, and we at 1.4. And to actually close the work orders out in the system, we at 1.7. Ms. Evan? Okay, so this is the employee time sheet record. What we use this for, if you bring that up a little bit more, for us to be able to get the optimum performance up some more, it is determined that each employee should have at least a minimum of 7 hours of applied time. And you get the 7 hours of applied time from taking 1 hour for lunch, because it's 9 hours in a day. You have 1 hour for lunch, then you have a half an hour for breaks, and then you have travel time in there. So the actual wrench time with the person actually doing the job should be 7. And the reason why our work order numbers are so good, folks are averaging 7.6, 7.4 in 8 hours. And how do you get more than that? It's because some folks take shorter breaks than others. And that's how they got the numbers. Okay, inspections. As you all know, we stopped inspections for several months because HUD said they didn't require to do the inspections. We started the inspections back up. Our average score was 89, which is almost 90%, was a testament of how well the site managers manage their site and how well they maintain the sites. Even though we hadn't done inspections for 5 months, the site's still in good position. And actually the number was 3rd highest of the year for us. Recertifications, we completed 212 for the month. Capital projects, in your report, you have a list of the project that's going on, all the capital projects. We've been using quite a bit of capital fund money to make sure that all these jobs are done. It talks about the Jack's Beach deal there, us having the 16 buildings, 13 completed. We have certificate of occupancy for 13 of them. 4 buildings is being leased now, 3 of them is completely full. The Carrington site, they're replacing the wood siding underneath all the windows in all the buildings. We're going back and taking the money that we get for capital fund and put it back into the properties. When you look in terms of roofing, we have several roofing projects that's going on. If you look at Blodgett, buildings 8, 9, 20, 33, 34, 35, and 36 are completed. And we only have 51, 53, and 54. Those are the only 3 buildings we have remaining. Oh, you come back down just a little bit. If you look at Centennial Townhouses, 6 roof replacements, a total of 14 and all needed replacement in the construction phase. So we already start making progress on that. That concludes public housing. Moving into Section 8 program. These numbers actually capture all the numbers for the whole entire year. So it's everything throughout the whole entire year. Our full vouchers is $7,869. That overall Section 8 budget is close to $70 million for the year. Am I correct, Dennis? $70 million. And that's based on those many vouchers there. The vouchers that we have underneath contract is 7,660. The utilization is at 97%. We have a total of 478 vouchers for people to still out there searching. We always like to have a lot of people out there searching because we use a 2-year tool that HUD gave us many, many years ago to be able to determine that if we pull a certain amount of people off the waiting list, if you put 200 people off the waiting list, how many people would get leased up? It would be out of 200, you may end up with only 50 leasing up. So we always put more vouchers on the street than we actually have. So you can meet that utilization. That's based on the 2, they call it 2-year tool because it's based on numbers for over a 2-year process. The FUP program, we currently have 78 vouchers for that program. We actually 73 underneath contract. We have utilization at 94. We actually have a number of vouchers, only 7 that's out there searching. The FUP grant is coming up again by the end of this year. We are anticipating maybe applying for more vouchers. We didn't apply last year because we was a little worried that we wasn't going to be able to make that 78, and we was able to successfully reach that 78. Underneath the VASH program, which has been our most challenging program in the Section 8 department, we have 572 vouchers. We have 476 underneath contract, and our utilization usually stay anywhere between 80 and 87 throughout the whole year. We are always pressing the Veterans Administration to give us those more referrals because the only referrals that you can take for that program comes through the VA. And we currently have a total of 53 people out there searching for units, which we can get those to lease up all the way. So we have a grand total of 310 vouchers remaining. And then it lists some of the accomplishments this year. We can go past that. Let's see that for the sake of time. In your report, you have a list of all the accomplishments in the Section 8 program, which was paramount throughout the whole fiscal year. Go to the next report. Human resources, human resources right now is actually doing a very good job. We've been, they have added a couple modules in the ADP system where we are starting to finally get many resumes for various different jobs. We actually just hired 2 managers and 2 foremen just recently, which is an improvement because most of the time we normally have several positions that's been vacant for a long period of time. And one of the challenges of getting folks into a lot of these jobs sometimes is pay. We can go a little bit further. Some more. So you come on back. So total staff through the years, we have budgeted at over 200 positions in our budget, and we constantly average anywhere between 70 to 75 or higher, but we always end up in the 70 numbers most of the time throughout the fiscal year. If you go down a little bit further. Come on. Good. You go back up, please. These are lists of the applicants that we actually have received applications for. So the list there, we had 209 applicants, 208 came through ADP, and we had the new hires at 20. Online pre-screening was 21, and online pre-employment decline was 3. And it just lists all the number. We have a total of 98 scheduled interviews on the month. So the aggression is there to try to make sure we get folks in those positions to fulfill some of these vacancies we have.
Dwayne, this is a year-to-date number, correct?
Yes.
I mean,
No,
as of last year.
No, these are, yes, these are year-to-date numbers, yes.
Okay, so that ended.
Yes, our fiscal year ended end of September. Yes. Okay, go ahead. Yes. So you have a total of 100. Currently have a total of 179 employees. Could you go to the top of that screen to make sure I'm correct? Yes. Okay. Come on down. I'm sorry. It's a 174. 174. All right. So resident services, it lists all the numbers for the department. They actually had a total of 778 residents and families that were serviced during the month. There are several activities, 410 active public housing Section 8 applicants, which include 189 escrow accounts with 228 direct case management, and an FSS graduate total payments of $19,880. And these list all the analytics in that department. You going down? You do miss that the HTVN training didn't do any in September, but it will start picked up again this month. Contract management, we make sure each month that we put a list of the contract management report that lists all the contracts that we have in the agency. It was something that wasn't being done a period of time ago, but we make sure that we actually put in the report so that the board can actually see on a monthly basis where the contracts are as far as contract services, construction, professional services. And the current bids and the recently awarded bids, put that in the report. Compliance. Compliance, if you continue to go up with that, compliance has been doing an outstanding job. Some more, Ms. Evan. Some more. Okay, right there. So what happened is one of the most accomplished things that we are very proud of is that we had in the past never dealt with good gov deals. Gov deals is one of the governmental sites that we actually take all our obsolete equipment and put it on there. So anything that we have that we don't use, if we take these chairs that they get old and dilapidated, we can put them on there and sell them for a profit. And if you come down a little bit further, it shows the amount of money we receive every single month, which the total we receive over $16,000. So if we can actually bring that back and use that money for other things. That was money we would have never captured before or never even would have seen because it would just disappear for some strange reason. You know? So now we make money off our junk. So collection, they collected last year, we collected a total of $254,167, 86.13 cents compared to 2018. So we collected an increase of 16% more than we did in 18. So it's a substantial amount of money is being collected out there. And I want folks to think that we don't go and collect that money, but OCD has been doing an outstanding job collecting that outstanding debt. Go ahead, you can continue. And all these are just numbers broken down, and which happened to be perfect. The IT is the last one on the board who's been actually navigating this whole presentation the whole entire time. So, but Ms. Evan and her department has been doing an outstanding job. They have put many initiatives together of 365, the Rent Cafe. And we just checked the analytics the other day. We actually have a little shy of 800 people signed up for the Rent Cafe program, which is just beyond unbelievable because it was such a challenge getting these systems set up. But we got the system set up, so now the residents, we talked about this every month, the same thing, because most things don't change, but the increase in activity with the tenants able to go on to our website and pay their rent or put a work order in over the weekend is so much easier now. So we're going to thank Ms. Evan for that. That concludes the asset management report. Any questions?
I have a couple.
Yes.
On the OCD collections, is there any way to relate the dollar amount to the amount of units or renters, or to sort of see if it's true growth or if it's just increased based on the volume of the rented units?
So you want to know if it increased or decreased based on?
Right, how many
Yes.
occupants? Yes. No,
Yes.
I don't need that right now.
Okay, yes, but keep in mind that
I don't know if it makes sense what I'm asking.
yes, it does.
Okay.
But you can see that somebody, say if it's $5,000, you really wouldn't technically have $5,000 over 20 people. That $5,000 may be one person,
right? Because
we actually use an EIB system, which just say hypothetically we had some employee, some resident who claims that her annual income is only $10,000, and then find out that she's really getting $40,000 a year. So that's unreported income. So while she was paying $200 a month for rent, she really should have been paying $600 a rent. So now we got to go back and calculate how much money is. So that one individual could owe that $5,000.
Right, that makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
And I might just show you some questions just to learn from
Oh, yes.
outside of the meeting. Yes.
I love property management is my thing. I love to talk about it.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any questions?
That was exactly my question, and she answered, and
Yes.
you answered.
Yes.
Still, I have few, but let me think in the meantime. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
yeah,
you.
but if you have any questions,
Sure,
feel free
sure.
to get in contact with me any given time. I love to get it because you got two different buckets there. One of them is for bad debt, and the other one is for rent payment agreements. And that rent payment agreement may be unreported income, and the other one is basically for when a tenant moves out of the unit, they damage the unit, or if they have some unpaid rent charges, or if they went to court and they had some eviction charges, or they had some maintenance fees that they didn't pay. All of that's in that bucket. Okay.
Any other questions for asset management? Seeing none, thank you very much, Mr. Alexander. We're going to switch now, Mr. Lord, for the cost and admin report. Thank you. Financial overview.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good afternoon.
My name is Dennis Gore, and I'm the Chief Financial Officer. I'll be going over the financial statements for you today. We're looking at the financial statements as of September 30th, 2020, and as Mr. Alexander said, September 30th is the end of our fiscal year, so we're at 100% of our budget for the year. So all of our percentages will be based on that 100% of the budget. So we'll start with our operating income. Overall, we did very well for the year, and we ended the year with $5.3 million of net operating income. So we've done very well overall. Looking specifically at the programs, our central office, our actual year-to-date income is at 101%, about $54,000 above where we were budgeted to be, so that's very good. Due to the effects of COVID, though, our expenses are at 107%. We still had net income for the program, but we're over budget just a little bit. Overall, we did very well, though. In our public housing program, our income is at 104%, so that's very good. We're almost $714,000 over where we had anticipated. So we're very good there in public housing. Our expenses are right at 101%, so up $126,000. So we're doing very well with our expenses in public housing. For our Section 8 program, also known as the Housing Choice Voucher Program, our income is at 111%. We're over $735,000. Excuse me. Part of the reason for this is because we received additional admin funding this year to help fight the coronavirus. So HUD gave us money for that. And then our expenses are right at 102%. So we kept expenses in line, but we're over by just about $80,000. So overall, the program is doing very well. For our affordable housing program, which is our Gregory West property, our income is at 97% for this year. We're down about $47,000. Overall, it's very good. We had some issues related to the coronavirus. So, but on the other side, our expenses are down 11%. So we're actually $87,000 under for our expenses. So overall, the property is doing very well. At the end of the month, our cash reserves are about $33 million. So we're doing very well with our cash balances, led by public housing, which is just over $16 million. And then every month we look at our quick ratio and our MENR. Our quick ratio is the number of times our cash can cover our debts, and our MENR is the number of months we can operate the program without any additional HUD funding. So when we look at our numbers, our quick ratio, which is the cash covering our liabilities, overall we're at about six times, which is very good. And for our MENR, we're at 12.39, which means we can operate off of our reserves for a whole year.
Could I just make a comment?
Yes.
Just so the new commissioners know that HUD only requires you to have 4 months of money.
Correct.
And we actually have more than 12 months of money survived that they didn't provide any more funding.
Correct.
So we almost 3 times the requirement. So that's exceptionally good.
Correct. Any questions about the financial statements?
Is that the plan to always be 3 times over for the investment or to sort of,
Not really.
okay?
We like to be able to take some of that money and continue to modify some of our developments and do some more developments. We don't want to be to that point, but unfortunately, it's years of building up the money, and now we're just really starting to get out and do some activities at the properties.
Can you, what's the normal quick ratio, just for the new commissioners? I think there's a standard and what we, can you just hit on that?
A standard quick ratio would be about a 2, I would say, Dennis. 2 or at least a 1 for sure, but a 2 at a max.
We have
And
6.
for a MENAR would definitely only be a 4. And in some cases, I've seen where if you had more than 4 or 5 months, HUD came back and recaptured that money. They took the money back.
And that could be a bit, lead to a very big problem.
Yes, a big problem.
And the quick ratio is based on how many months of liabilities can we cover? Is that
Yes.
for the year? Also, how many months are we using?
Well, it's just a ratio of how much cash we have to our,
Just only
to
1
our
month, and
liability.
then
So
right.
that's the ending balance as of the end of September.
Thank you.
So it shows that the agency is in good financial position.
Maybe too good.
Too good.
Too good, yeah.
Yeah, I would call
Probably need
it.
to decide what we're gonna do with that money, so we can restrict it or something, so that it doesn't
Come back to
decide
that.
to take it back from us.
I remember the Department of Health, we ended the year with more than 3 months of revenue, and they would take it back.
Yeah.
So moving forward, because we've been looking at that number for a while. I mean, as long as I've been on the board. I mean, I realize your hands are tied with the interim loan
Yes.
table, but what should we be doing with that money then?
We talked about it today as finance, and some of that money needs to be restricted. And moving forward, we need to, and later in the meeting talking about working on our strategic plan, do some strategic planning. We're looking to have, we reached out to a couple vendors, so we need to find out exactly when the board members are available so that we can have a strategic plan meeting so we can start working on our strategic plan to address some of these issues and concerns with some of our properties over a long period. And that's where that money will come into play.
As you move forward with that, and I'm certain that Boston Admin will come back with those recommendations, with strategic plan or not, but I would probably think that some of this reserves would be dedicated to some type of COVID preparedness. You know, given that we don't know what's out there in the future regarding.
I'm glad you brought that up, Commissioner. I'm glad you brought that up because when we get to resolution 33, you'll see exactly us being proactive by starting to address some of those things.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Laura, is that it from you?
That's it for me, unless there's any more questions.
Any questions? Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And we do have resolutions for action under cost and admin. Mr. Alexander, you want to walk us through those?
Yes, we are presenting to the board resolution JHA 32-2020. This resolution is to approve KBT Corporation contract modification for the 89 units at Jack Beach. This is $516.28, the maximum indebtedness of $1,633,851.28. There are 3 change orders that are presented for approval to this board. This, which is CO3, which is change order number 7, is an increase in the contract cost of $969.28 due to project delays. Because of COVID, we had some project delays. And what it was that residents didn't feel safe moving out of their units going to a hotel while we was renovating units, so that sort of delayed the construction timeline. And we was moving them out because you understand that those 89 units are underneath that Rad rehab. And what we was doing was moving them out the unit, replacing the floors in that unit, because we couldn't leave them in the unit while we was replacing the floors. And then the second part of that is, in some of these units, when they gave us a cost estimate, it was based on it being on one floor removal. And we brought this to the board before and found out that after they went through there, there was 2 subfloors in there, so it cost them more money. So the first one is the delay for moving out of, which is change order number 7, and change order number 8 and 9, which is the delays, which is a total of 6 units, which is the underlaying underneath that floor, which had 2 floors that they had to take out there. So overall, it is this resolution is for $6,516.28, and on average, a change order is usually industry standards between 8 and 14%. With the changes on this change order on this overall job, we only had 10.5, which well within the industry standard. So we asking the board to approve this change order for $6,516.28.
All right. Can I get a motion for approval?
I make a motion, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Brock, and a second?
Second.
All right, thank you, Mr. McGowan. Any discussion or unreadiness? If none, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any?
Rosalind's still muted. In fact, we kind of may have forgotten that she was there.
Before I say any nays, I'll get
This is the downside of
Any nays? Rosalind? Ms. Phillips? No nays, so we'll take that as a yes.
Yes, I voted yes.
Thank you very much. All right, Mr. Alexander, by your action, we've approved resolution 2020 JHA number 32.
Yeah, thank you very much, Commissioner.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
normally take public comment on the items as they arise, or did you intend that all public comment was at the beginning of the meeting?
We intended with all public comment at the beginning of the meeting, but do we need to take public comment on them as they arise?
Yes, typically you would be taking public comment on action items at the time that they arise after the motion is made.
Okay.
So I know if you would just call for it to see if there were any public comments for this particular item, just to make sure that's on the record.
Okay. All right. Any public comment for JHA 2020 JHA number 32?
And Mr. Alexander, if you could just confirm that there were no emails received for this item.
Yes, ma'am. We had no emails on that.
Okay. Thank you. I apologize, Mr. Griggs. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, this is Rosalind. I don't know if you can hear me, but that's not typically the way that we've done it in the past. As I recall, we did all of the public comments at the beginning of the meeting, even if they were in reference to an item that was on the agenda. If we added something to the agenda, then we would take public comments at that time. But in the past, that's just my recollection now.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips. I think because there was no committee report and recommendation from the committee for these action items is why we're in position posture to do that. That's what I believe. So, Ms. Stephanopoulos, can you confirm that for us?
Well, it's done 2 different ways, and I apologize because I have not sat in with this board as much as Ms. Hodges has. So if what Ms. Rosalind says is correct and that's been the practice of this board, that's fine. I just wanted to be sure that it was understood at the time that public comments were requested. It was for all items that were on the agenda, including the action items that were here for the 4 resolutions.
Thank you for that, Mr. McGowan and Ms. Brock.
Well, I think it's just, we've never really had public comment. We've never had anybody come into the meeting, and when you stop to look around, you can see there was nobody in the meeting that wasn't staff. Your point's correct, because, so when you do an item where you have to vote on it, you only have to have public comment available at one time during the process, not every time it goes through the process. So that with it originating in a committee, if there was an opportunity for public comment in the committee meetings, it wouldn't necessarily have to do that. I mean, there's no reason not to open it up for public comment every time, but it gets this Stuffopoulos is correct, and that, we could do it this way. We also traditionally have done it where we open it up at the beginning as an all-encompassing one. So there's a number of different paths to get to where we want to go, and I think it really is up to this board to determine what is the most compliant way to move forward. I think it'd be up to the chair, honestly.
We'll call it an abundance of caution. Ms. Brock?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, that's what I was wondering, because normally in looking, and even when I went for the training, that's what they were saying, that we should be having public comment after every one of our presenters that we are presenting, that we should open up for public comment, as the lawyer had said. But, like Ms. Rosin was saying, no, we hadn't done it, but it should be done in that manner.
Thank you for that. Again, my posture was that since there was no committee gathered to discuss these and offer public comment during the committee process, because typically when committee offers action items, then we don't even need a motion. They just present it and we vote on it. But since that didn't happen, these are reports from staff, then their action items need to be taken out of caution, abundance of caution on mind, having public comment there. So we'll move on. We'll move through these and offer public comment, open them for public comment as we go along. Yeah.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Sorry, this is Ariel Cook from the Office of General Counsel. I just wanted to touch base because we were scheduled to have the shade meeting at 3, and I believe Ms. Manns is present in the room now. She has another commitment at 4 o'clock, and so I just wanted to let you know and see what the board's preference is to handle the shade meeting.
We'll be done.
Yeah.
We'll be done by 35, I promise. Is that enough time for your 4 o'clock?
Yes, as long as I'm done by 4, it'll be fine. I just want to make sure you all have enough time.
We'll be done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry for the interruption.
Thank you very much for pointing that out. We apologize.
That's okay. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Alexander,
Yes.
2020 JHA 33.
Okay, yeah, resolution number JHA 33, 2020 to approve write-off the delinquent repayment agreement accounts receivable is a balance for $44,000 and 67 cents, and this is the quarterly report. So we're asking the board to approve this.
All right, can I get a motion from Ms. Brock?
Make a motion.
Thank you very much, Ms. Brock. And second?
Want to jump in on the second in here?
Thank you, Ms. Gilbert.
Get your name in the minutes.
Thank you very much. Any discussion? All right, seeing no discussion, all in favor signify your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. By your action, we have approved resolution number 2020 JHA 33. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Mr. Alexander?
Yes,
I'm sorry. I did all that and I forgot to open for public comment. Just like that. Any public comment on 2020 JHA 33?
no, sir.
Thank you. All right. 34.
Okay,
I'll do this time, I promise.
thank you, Commissioner. We are asking the board to approve resolution JHA 34, 2020. This is to approve the write-off of delinquent public housing tenant accounts receivable for $32,764.65. And this is a quarterly report as well.
All right, can I get a motion on 2020 JHA 34?
Motion.
All right, thank you, Ms. Hernandez. Second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Brock, thank you very much. Any discussion? All right, at this point, I'd like to open it up for public comment.
We're getting a thumbs up from OGC this time. Good job.
Thank you very much. All right, no public comments, seeing none. All in favor signify your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. None opposed, and then you have unanimously, by your action, unanimously approved 2020 JHA 34. Thank you. Mr. Alexander.
Yes, Commissioner, we are asking the board to approve JHA 35 2020. This is approved COVID-19 modifications to multiple sites. We're actually piggybacking off the Tampa Housing Authority, piggybacking off their contract. This overall contract is for maybe $150,000. We are actually looking to put in every single site, all 16 sites, minus our Rad site, is put troughers in every single building with this UV light to be actually kill all pathogens. This is a retrofit, is an L filtration process, which uses UV lighting to sanitize the air, activate pathogens, and decrease contamination. And we're looking to put this in the entranceway of every single building. Actually, it would be, like, if you take a look at this light panel right here, it actually goes behind that. It's like a filtration system where it pours through there, and you have the UV light there, and it kills all types of bacteria and germs in every single site. We're looking to put that at every single site, and we ask the board to approve this resolution for us.
All right, can we get a motion on 2020 JHA 35? Mr. Brock, thank you very much. Second?
Second.
Second, Mr. McGowan, thank you very much. Discussion.
Public comment.
I'm sorry, after discussion.
Okay.
Any discussion? Mr. Alexander, when will all this be done?
I don't know exactly his timeline. I would say it would be several months, but I will actually bring back to the board the actual timeline and give you. I don't want to give you no erroneous information. I want to give you facts. Yes.
What is going to cost?
It's about, for to do all 16 sites, it's about $150,000. All 16 sites, sorry. And then keep in mind that this money is coming directly from the CARES Act money that we received COVID, so it's not coming out of our budget. So we got $2.9 million from the CARES Act, and we've been looking for creative ways to be able to save our residents by utilizing that funding.
Any other discussion? All right, we'll open it up for public comment. 2020 JHA 35. Any comments from the public? Hearing none, I will now call the question. All in favor signify your support by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? No opposed. By your action, you have approved unanimously 2020 JHA 35 for modifications, COVID-19 modifications. Thank you very much.
Did we have a vote from Ms. Phillips? I did not hear.
Usually when we get, okay, was she unmuted?
She was not, and I couldn't unmute her.
She was not. All right, so we have enough. So
She's
without
muted herself.
Yeah, so you know, we have, so we can report it was extension.
I said yes.
Okay,
Thank you, Ms. Phillips.
thank you very much. Sorry we're making you struggle, Roz. Okay, next on the agenda, Roz, you're up, CEO Search Committee.
Can you roll the windows up, y'all? I gotta speak for a minute.
All right, Ms. Phillips, you're up. Thank you very much. Roz?
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Commissioner.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think so.
Roz, you muted yourself, so you'll have to unmute. We can't unmute you on this end. There you are.
There you are. Okay, now start over.
Okay, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. As many of you know, for work, I've been out of the country for a couple of weeks. But at the last committee meeting, I shared with, or the last meeting of the commission, I shared with you that our leading candidate that we had recommended withdrew from the search. He accepted another position. As you know, our process has taken an extended amount of time, and we were asked by the city council to refrain from making a selection until the new members have been set. So we are happy to see the 2 new members that are here. Looking forward to you becoming involved in the process. We had a recommendation to interview, final interviews for 3 candidates, Mr. Pettigrew, Mr. Biggs, and Mr. Alexander. Since that time, Mr. Pettigrew withdrew. And no, Mr. Pettigrew, yes, he withdrew because he accepted another position, and Mr. Alexander also withdrew. We have not met to take an additional action, so at the next meeting, which we hope to plan for next week, we will be looking to determine what the committee's recommendation is for going forward in the selection process. That's my report, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Phillips. If you were, I know you were listening earlier, but when we introduced our new board members, Ms. Fernandez and Ms. Gilbery, we officially asked Ms. Gilbery to serve on the CEO search committee. So
yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you for that, because we certainly can use her input.
And I'd like to also note that all board members are welcome to sit in on the search committee, as they are any committees, just those who are appointed who are actually allowed to vote. So that would mean Mr. McGowan, Ms. Brock, Ms. Gilbery now, and led by Ms. Rosalind Dixon Phillips. So.
And Mr. Chair, you may recall at the last meeting, I also asked that we provide some information to our new members so that they would have some background information, the minutes of those meetings, and any other information on the candidates that could be helpful to get them some background on where we are and the candidates that have been interviewed.
Thank you.
Okay. And we'll make sure that that information is forwarded or made available. And certainly, Ms. Fernandez, you are welcome to that information as well. Along Ms. Gilbery being part of the committee, we'll definitely make sure that information that she had already received. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Phillips. Thank you, Ross. We appreciate you being available in the midst of all of this, and welcome home. All right, Mr. Alexander, quickly, your president. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm gonna give myself 2 minutes on this report. Number 1, we talked about the waves. Number 2, I would admit Saxon and Gilmore stole my jokingly my thunder by not allowing me to make the statement that we did close on Friday at with Centennial townhouses, but Centennial Towers with best course. We're real excited with that. I just also want to put out there, we also applied, we submitted a notification to HUD to apply for 100 more vouchers. We're working with Ms. Gilman with the homeless group. We applied for 100 mainstream vouchers. We signed off and sent office and wait for HUD to notify us back if we were able to get that 100 vouchers that we could be able to partner with them to be able to use for homeless disabled folks. And also we did apply for another 25 vouchers for clients between, kids between 18 and 24 who transitioned out of foster homes. So we just put it on the table, we applied for additional 125 vouchers. Also, we did submit our 5-year plan to HUD. I received notification via email that they received it. We're waiting for the approval on that. And also, one of the more important things is that I did put in each one of your packages that the National Association of Housing and Redevelopment Authority, which is NARO, they provide training every single year on various different training. Ms. Brock went to the training last year, but they do have 2 trainings coming up, which is, they have one training, which is for December the 1st to the 9th, and you can do it online. And this is for Commissioner's Guide to Monitoring and Oversight, and it talks about that you would gain knowledge on various programs, how the programs is funded, how to reposition your real estate assets, get to know the budgets from a HUD perspective, understand the commissioner's roles and approving budget, and understanding the separate role of the executive director, CEO, and the needs for commissioners. It also tells you all about all the different types of monitoring reports. It's a great program and it's a great class. The other one that I also put in your package was for ethics for commissioner. This is an excellent course as well. That's December the 16th and the 17th, and this is online. And then the last one is the strategic plan and agency development and a policy for commissioners. And one more, which is commissioners fundamental. We have all these up, and keep in mind this training provides excellent training foundation for new commissioners and veteran commissioners. There's new people on the board and veteran commissioners purely for that, because HUD changes every year and his rules changes every single year, and it's very important that the commissioner be as knowledgeable as they possibly can, regardless of how long they was on the board, because there's a lot of information that changes every single year. So I just want to make sure, all you have to do is let me know when you're available. I will fill out the paperwork to make sure that I be able to get you access to that training. The other thing is I need some dates. I will send you all some possible dates for a possible retreat so that we'll be able to work on a strategic plan. Our strategic plan is clearly outdated, but because this is the first month of the fiscal year, it's very critical that we put our strategic plan in place so we can be able to map out the future for this agency. And lastly, we do plan on, we finally got approval from Institute of Real Estate Management. We are hosting a class here, certification class for all the managers, which are accredited residential managers, which will be January the 25th to January the 30th. And I will get with you, Commissioner Godwin. We still have that package, even though we just last month, brought that to the board last month. I had to get that to the OIG, but we still want to make sure we have a meeting with you all so that we can go through stuff through your committee prior to bringing it back to the board. That concludes my report. Any questions?
Any questions, Mr. Alexander? I would just say that as these committee meetings are scheduled, please make sure they're covered. So, I might want to stick my head up. I don't know. We'll see. That is it. Ms. Gilroy, Ms. Fernandez, y'all have any comments? Parting comments going on? I hope this is an uneventful yet eventful first meeting.
Yes, this is great. It's great. I have more to learn, but this is exciting. All reports are good. I see all the data that we are targeted and what we achieve, less than 3%, most of them are. So that's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I don't have any old or new business. I'll just mention that that Mr. Alexander's team has been very helpful with COVID testing that's going on at our sites, various sites through Agape Family Health Center. And every weekend there's a different location that show up. And I've been out there for a couple of them. And I'm sorry I missed the senior event because the time's been they got mixed up on that. But I was going to come to the 4 o'clock one, only to find out that it's over.
Yes.
So, but I apologize for that, but I did get a chance to check. I do get a chance to check some folks. The testing section. So with that, we will not have a BPAL meeting today. We'll move that to, we'll do 2 next month. Put that up. Okay. And with any other parting shots? No. With that, we'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much.
And then I guess we should just end the Zoom meeting.